Let's put statins in drinking water. What could possibly go wrong, right? What's wrong with that? Statins, no downside risk, right? So I went to my doc, and I have a high or 142 over 83 or something like that. And so she was like, "Whoa, the first thing she says, I'm gonna prescribe you a statin." I said, "What the hell's a statin?" Come here. And she goes, "It'll help you reduce your LDL and potentially increase your HDL." And look, man, I know a little bit about triglycerides, HDL, LDL. I know enough to know, okay, I'm not all that worried. So she prescribed me this rosuvastatin. I can't even pronounce it. Rosuvastatin. And I said, "How long do I got?" And as I was walking out the door, I said, "How long do I got to take this for?" She goes, "Oh, probably forever." I said, I didn't even think I wasn't expecting to go back. There's no way I'm taking this crap. I'll tell you right now. So I'm not taking it. And the reason I'm not taking it is because I keep my blood pressure. I check it regularly, and I'm usually between 125 to 135. And usually about 70 to 80 on the lower end. And I'm not taking a freaking drug for the rest of my life because my blood pressure is a little bit on the high end when they measured. Now, to her credit, when I went back in there, I said, "Look, man, because I did go back because I like her. I think she's too quick on the trigger." Because she's raised into the modern medicines industry. And I said, "Look, I'm just not taking it. You don't know any history of the family background with drugs and alcohol. I'm not doing it." And she was fine with after that. So she said, "Well, keep your blood pressure on a regular basis. Let's just look out." She did some blood work, and so I gave her the benefit of the doubt. You always should do that, my friends. It's easy to be diligent and say, "Oh, that people's an idiot." Just try to err on the side of giving people the benefit of the doubt. And so ever since we kind of got, this was my first meeting with this lady, ever since that she's been fine. But there's no way I'm taking this crap. Anyway, so I'm reading my man's book here, Human Heart, Cosmic Heart, by, again, Dr. Thomas Cowan. A quack! He's a quack! And I just want to share with you something. And then we're going to go back to a New York Times piece that talks about putting statin in the water. This is freaking insane. So hang tight here one second. Thomas says, a colleague of mine was an Air Force flight surgeon. At his yearly physical, he was told he had high cholesterol and that he needed to take the statin drug Lipitor. Now, this right here, by the way, is a generic of a Crestor, which is more potent than Lipitor. So he's told he needed to take the statin drug Lipitor if he wanted to keep flying. A few weeks after starting Lipitor, he experienced a bout of amnesia while flying. Not this scary there. He asked the doctor if it was from... he missed his entry. He asked his doctor, there's a typo in here. I just noticed it actually. It's just he missed the if. He asked his doctor if it was from the Lipitor and was told no, of course. Suspicious, my colleague stopped the drug and didn't experience amnesia again. A year later, after he started the drug again so he can continue to fly, he experienced another bout of amnesia. His doctor again insisted that it was not caused by the Lipitor. My colleague began to research the connection himself and set up a website to compile stories from other patients on statin drugs, and eventually he wrote the book Lipitor, Thief of Memory, detailing the mechanisms whereby statin drugs impede memory, inspired by the stories of thousands of people who have suffered the same symptoms. Besides pointing out one of the dangers of statin drugs, the point of this story is that a lot of doctors either don't believe in the anvil, i.e., what Thomas is saying is, look, here's what he says about an anvil. Hold on a second, I'll tell you. Oh, right here. I tell many of my patients that I believe in the anvil theory of medicine. Say you're not prone to headaches. Then one day you're walking down the street and an anvil falls on your head. After that, you have daily headaches. It's probably from the anvil. I love that, man. Anyway, so he says, besides pointing out one of the dangers of statin drugs, the point of the story is that a lot of doctors either don't believe in the anvil theory or don't bother to take the time to ask the patients the right questions or leave it to the story or listen to the story. Again, just prescribed it. And I had to tell her, like, no, I'm not taking that stuff, man. I'm not taking that for the rest of my life. No. Anyway, so I'm going to show you guys something here. So we're going to come back to right here. And statins to water. Addition of statins to water, the drinking supply. All right. Will routine use of statins after age 50 be as common as fluoridating drinking water? All right, interesting, huh? So let's just take a gander here. It should, says this guy. Will routine use of statins after age 50 become as common as fluoriding drinking water? Isn't that interesting? It should, says this crazy man. So let's go back to what's the point about that? Because they read this study right here from a New York Times article right here. Cholesterol fighting drugs show wider benefit from this clown, Pambelic. A large new study suggests that millions more people could benefit from taking the cholesterol-fighting drug. Now, I don't subscribe to the New York Times, and I don't recommend you either, so I'm not going to show you that. So we're going to delete that. But I want to show you here. I came across this questioning.org. If journalists would read the fine print, it'd be comforting if journalists would practice this reading skill with more vigor, as all too often groups will release studies that make important claims that rapidly claim headlines because the findings are dramatic. Too few journalists review the methodology employed to develop these findings or even ask anything more than an executive summary. 100%. I completely agree. Remember, it wasn't me. It wasn't the right wing. It was Ben Rhodes, who was Obama's national security advisor, who said basically journalists are stupid. They'll do it. They'll believe anything we tell them. You can look it up. Look it up. All right, this happened recently with a study paid for by a drug company suggesting that the drug would even be good. Suggesting the drug would be good even for folks with low cholesterol. Few of the early media stories raised issues about this report's funding and weaknesses, but here and there, all over the next few days, the report's critics were able to win the attention of some members of the press, so those issues finally did receive attention. But here, that was Pambelic from the New York Times. Cholesterol-fighting drugs show wider benefit. The New York Times. The Times even published an editorial on November 18th stressing these issues and concerns. They said, who should take a statin? A large new study seems to suggest that millions of people with low cholesterol could benefit from taking the cholesterol-lowering drugs known as statins. That would be a boon for some drug companies, but whether it would be good to all patients remains a question. Given the paper's series of articles challenging many of the studies that have been used to sell drugs, the editorial is not surprising. But the cholesterol study first won the headlines across the nation through the AP and Times news feeds, while subsequent articles challenging the study appeared mostly on the back pages. So let's take a look here. In fact, the Times cited above article, cholesterol-fighting drugs may produce wider benefit. It should have been worded like that. So let me show you something else. So there's this study called the Jupiter study, and it studies statins. Nearly 2 years ago, a study known as the Jupiter trial hinted at a new era in the use of statins, one in which the cholesterol-busting drugs could be used to stave off heart-related death in many more people than just those with high cholesterol. Now, however, researchers behind a new review that takes a second look at the findings of the study say that these results are flawed and they do not support the benefits initially reported. Not only did the second look turn up no evidence of the striking decrease in coronary heart disease complications by investigating Jupiter. So what do we say here? We said, not only did the second look turn up no evidence of the striking decrease in coronary heart disease complications, but it's also called into question drug companies' involvement in such trials. Moreover, Dr. Michel de something of Joseph Fourier University and the National Center of Scientific Research in France and co-authors argue that the major discrepancies exist between the significant reductions in non-fatal stroke and heart attacks reported in the study and what has actually been found in other research. The Jupiter data set appears biased. Dr. Paul Ridker of Harvard and Brigham and Young's Women's Hospital dismissed the criticisms. He reported the Jupiter results at the AHA, American Heart Association meeting in 2008. In an email to MedPage Today, Ridker, who is the guy who's the defender of it, Ridker said that Jupiter data overwhelmingly stand for themselves. Among a group of individuals with low levels of cholesterol, we clearly demonstrate that those at elevated risk of inflammation are in fact a high-risk population that using statin therapy in this group cuts even event rates for heart attack and stroke in half. He also pointed out that FDA has extensively reviewed that data. I love when they always go back to FDA as if the FDA is just independent. We know the FDA is not independent. and found the trial to be well conducted, and recently provided a new indication for the use of statins in primary prevention on the basis of the Jupiter data. AstraZeneca! Where have we heard about AstraZeneca? Maker of the popular statin drug, Crestor, also defended the study, of course. A spokesman said in an email today that the study was undertaken with a fully independent steering committee, data and safety monitoring board, and academic study statistician. She also said that Ricker, the guy from Harvard and Brigham and Young's, who just basically Brigham and Young, who wants to fire all these people who aren't jabbed, she also said that Ricker and his co-investigators controlled all data. AstraZeneca played no role in conducting data analysis. However, the good guys point out that 9 of the 14 authors of Jupiter article have financial relationships with AstraZeneca, which sponsored the trial. And Ricker has a patent interest in the assay for C-reactive protein, CRP, an inflammation biomarker evaluated in all Jupiter trial participants. The sponsor's pervasive role is clearly described in the second paragraph of the methods section of the report. The sponsor, AstraZeneca, collected the trial data and monitored the study sites. So the good guys concluded that the results of Jupiter trial are clinically inconsistent and therefore should not change medical practice or guidelines. The results of Jupiter trial support concerns that commercially sponsored clinical trials are at risk of poor quality and bias. Adding to the controversy, authors of another article in the same issue of the Archives reported that a review of 11 large primary prevention trials showed no effect on statin therapy on deaths in high-risk patients. The Jupiter trial has stood alone in its finding of a significant benefit in patients with no evidence of coronary heart disease. The trial examined the effects of this stuff right here in patients with normal low cholesterol but elevated levels of CRP. All right. Remember, we got to look up, I'm not going to do it here today on this, but we got to look up old Dr. Ridker. What's he up to now? Let's see. Investigators randomized 17,800 apparently healthy men and women to determine to receive either statin, this guy here, or a placebo. And then they studied these groups and compared how many suffered heart attacks. The trial ended early when an interim analysis showed a 44% reduction in these events in the group taking the statins. With the results this positive, the logic went, why continue the study? It sounds almost like something else that just happened with Pfizer, does it not? I mean, they ended the study early. And then what they did in the Pfizer study, not only did they end it early, they jabbed them. It's crazy, man. But the good guys and his co-authors cited the early termination as one of the several methodological problems with Jupiter. Although pre-specified early stopping points are a well-accepted feature, the rules for stopping should be clearly described, and that was not the case in the Jupiter. Indeed, we still don't know which endpoint was used to define the rules for stopping or which level of benefits was required to justify early termination. Oh my goodness. The authors also expressed concern that the trial ended early despite the fact that the data were not consistent with a large difference between the actual drug and the placebo. All right, I'm going to stop there because this is just freaking insane. So let me show you something else here too. So we're not done. We're not done because I'm going to show you something. Oh, what's one of the drawbacks about statins? They lower testosterone. Interesting. Drugs are two-sided swords, but statins are no exceptions. Schooling demonstrate that on average, statins produce small but significantly Schooling demonstrate that on average, statins produce small but statistically significant decreases in testosterone. They appropriately emphasize that clinical significance of their observations is unclear, but suggest that changes in testosterone might be related to the benefits of therapy as well as the risk and the increased chance of diabetes mellitus. Their findings are noteworthy. However, we believe this represents another example of limitations in the published summaries of the drug effects. Oh, but the Jupiter effects? Adverse reactions? That's crazy. That's just sort of Jenny McCarthy. That's crazy talk. So let's take a look here too. Crestor's, I got the generic, side effect, real life stories. Crestor is one of the strongest statin drugs for lowering cholesterol numbers, but some readers report dramatic complications from side effects. To AstraZeneca, and this is when the Jupiter study was kind of published in the New York Times right here. They made $3.97 billion from Crestor. Now, again, I got the generic version. And 3 years later, they made 6.6 billion. Now you can see it's falling off a cliff. They're still making 1.2 billion. Man, come on. There's no incentive at all there, huh? Come on. AstraZeneca from top product Crestor is one of its top products. The revenue amount to 1.18 billion US dollars. Is one of the top 15 pharma companies in the world. Yeah, so you can see they're making bang from Crestor. What could be some of the possible side effects? Let's just put in the water. Let's see. We're here, right here. If you're struggling to keep your cholesterol under control, no doubt you've considered taking a statin. Crestor is one of the popular cholesterol lowering drugs. And this is Lipitor too, but it's just the same thing. Crestor is a little bit more potent. So let's take a look here. We got side effects. All right, we're going to go down to some of the, one reader reported muscle cramps. I'm 57 years old, and I was put on Crestor 10 milligrams a day. I was 20 a day for old Josh. 7 years ago. Since then, I've had very serious recurring cramps in the front of my thighs. I assumed it was just me. Due to my profession, I was shot in the hand with a .45 caliber bullet. And I can tell you in all confidence the cramp pain was worse. Then last year, I fell on hard financial times, and I quit paying for my health insurance, and so I stopped taking Crestor. To my surprise, the cramps are totally gone. Nevertheless, I was able to keep my cholesterol in check by eliminating sugar and all kinds of stuff. I'll never go back again. Another reader had eye problems. I started taking Crestor in November 2010. I developed cataracts in both my eyes and surgeries in 2011. My primary physician and my ophthalmologist, whatever it's called, both disagreed that Crestor could have caused it, just like our guy here, right, who said his physician, remember, he wanted to fly. He wanted to keep flying. And his physician said, he asked his doctor if his amnesia was from Lipitor, and he said no. And then a year later, again, the doctor said it was not caused by Lipitor's amnesia. Let's see. Because I was 58 at the time, I don't think these are old age cataracts. I believe the cataracts are due to Crestor. Did Crestor cause diabetes? My husband and I have been taking statins. My husband has been taking statins for 6 years and didn't do well with any of them until he took Crestor. After about 6 years, he developed diabetes, which I believe may have been caused by Crestor. But the doctor didn't believe Crestor could have been the cause. Yeah, right on. The kicker is, even though my husband does have high cholesterol, he does not have heart disease. He went to surgery a few years ago thinking they're going to find blocked arteries, and they found his arteries were clear. And again, if you just read my man Thomas Cowan's book, you recognize that maybe there's collateral veins or ways the blood gets shipped. This person had a range of problems. I was put on Crestor with a month. My cholesterol had been lowered from nearly 300 to 131. All right, great. Not long after, I began to experience side effects. I could not walk without limping, blah, blah, blah. I felt down, totally exhausted, could not continue. And that's one of the big side effects is obviously you're getting rid of testosterone, but you're also getting rid of a lot of you're exhausted. I threw Crestor in the trash. Now I take everything I can to stay healthy, include a red yeast rice supplement. Yep, and you can get some right now on Costco for sale. $4 off a bottle of shit. All right, so so there's a bunch of stuff. Of course, the doctors all say, nothing to do with that. So let's go to Space Doc. I think it's .com. I think it's spacedoc.com. Oh, here he is. Now he's since now died. His statin story. He's literally an astronaut. This guy. All right, when I first wrote about personal side effects of Lipitor, my words were focused purely on transient global amnesia. This is because in 1999, shortly after this drug was started by my doctors at the Johnson Space Center, this is what I experienced. A year later, they restarted me on the same statin, Lipitor, which is, again, not even as potent as this. Hold on a second. Finney just jumped into one of my raised beds. It's 4 feet off the ground. Man, that guy's nuts. Let's see. 2 months later, I again experienced amnesia. And for 12 hours, I was a 13-year-old high school student who knew my subjects, my teachers, and every kid in my class, but no memory of my current adult life. I laughed when they told me I was married with children and a doctor. I could not have doctored a mouse and certainly had no children. I was 13. 56 years. Let me hold on a second. 56 years of rich and fulfilled adult life had vanished from my mind as if it had never occurred. I had to stop and take 3 breaks because Finney was getting one of my raised beds out there. I go, fix that dog. He's such a knucklehead. After my recovery and several years of research on statins, I considered myself lucky to have had only amnesia. For when it's over, you're back to normal. Not so for most of the statin victims in my bulging repository with a persistent neuromuscular. Hey, no, hold on a sec. Finnegan? Let's see. But not so much for the other victims with a persistent neuromuscular problems, short-term memory loss, and ALS and Parkinsonism-like reactions. All right. So anyway, this guy had written a book, which I'm going to share with you right here, if we can find it. Lipitor, Thief of Memory. Thief of Memory. Yeah, so you can get it for free as a PDF, by the way, which is pretty good. And I have downloaded that, and you should. You should get this book. So before you go on statins, you might want to read my man's book here. All right, so also I want to point out, because I know a lot of people say, he's just a quack. Let's take a look. Is he a quack? Who is Dr. Graveline? All right, let's see. A quack because he was an astronaut. He was one of 6 scientists selected in 1965 in NASA's 4th group of astronauts for the Apollo program. And apparently he's a quack. He was best known for being immersed in water for 7 days as part of zero-gravity deconditioning research while as a U.S. Air Force research scientist. Interesting, huh? Let's see. He also had he has a Bachelor of Science from University of Vermont. He's got a Doctor of Medicine degree from University of Vermont College of Medicine. He has a Master's of Public Health from Johns Hopkins. He has an internship at Walter Reed, specializing in aerospace medicine. Yeah, so obviously he was also a flight surgeon. Freaking, I mean, you can't get much more quacky than this guy, right? He served as intelligence analyst for Soviet bioastronautics and was active as an N8 NASA flight controller for Mercury and Gemini missions. So obviously quack. We shouldn't listen to him. We should listen to Fauci because Fauci knows it all. FDA will tell us. No one will tell us the drawbacks. Anyway, it's just funny. So lastly, I want to share with you this article right here. Fluoridation fight, a conservative view. Judge John Flaherty handed down a stunning opinion the other day in the Court of Common Appeals in Pennsylvania. A friend in Pittsburgh was kind enough to send a text along with a text left old dad, meaning me, practically in tears for the good old days. For the opinion dealt with fluoridation of a public water supply. The judge issued temporary injunction against the Borough of Westview prohibiting the addition of fluoride in this water supply on the grounds that fluoride might eventually cause cancer. Hallelujah! 15 years ago when the battle over fluoridation was at its peak, this guy, James Kilpatrick, was the first wave of troops. Those were the days when the juice was flowing, when dentists, doctors, and practitioners of public health undertake by law to impose their notions of good dental care upon the whole of the community. These men are scoundrels, is what this guy said. That is what old dad thought was writing that back then. They ought to be hanged as enemies of a free society. Yahoo! The battle went on for 3 or 4 years at fever pitch, but in the end, those of us who believe in individual freedom and personal responsibility went down in defeat. The do-gooder forces of socialized medicine prevailed. Willy-nilly, like it or not, fluoridation became an accepted form of dental treatment just about everywhere. Libertarians turned to other bugles, other drums, other fields to battle. With Judge Flaherty's opinion, we may be tempted to dig out the faded gonfalons and sharpen our lances again. The judge called this one exactly right. Fluoride, he said, does not purify a public water supply. It is an additive that's thought to be good for the public. It significantly reduces dental caries. Thus, the public benefits receive a benefit whether they want it or not. That proposition left the judge cool. If government has the power to force that which is good upon us, if fluoride is added for this reason, where does it stop? Turn to evidence suggesting that fluoride may not be so good after all. The plaintiffs have produced expert testimony from qualified research scientists comparing deaths from cancer in 20 American cities between 1950 and 1968. 10 of the cities had fluoridated water, 10 did not. The study concluded that there is a significant increase in cancer mortality in the fluoridated cities. The defendant challenged this evidence with experts of their own, but Judge Flaherty was compellingly convinced that the plaintiffs had raised at least a reasonable doubt. The residual effects of smoking can cause lung cancer long after a smoker quits. Exactly. But in this case, the decision does not involve government decision on labeling cigarettes. No one has to smoke a cigarette. Likewise, it's a matter of choice whether a person eats bacon, or consumes products or whatever. But there's no choice when the water he uses, cooks with, brushes his teeth with, bathed in, contains a possible carcinogenic. Carcinogen. And this too is what James Kirkpatrick was saying at the top of his lungs. The fluoridation of a public water supply violates every principle of a free society. The practice is an abuse of power by the state. The judge was a temporary injunction, and alas, the probabilities that it will get more temporary all the time. The borough appealed to Harrisburg, and by this time the order may have already been stayed at reverse. It may be remembered as something lovely while it lasted. This judge struck a blow for liberty, and not enough judges do that. So let's check one other thing out here. All right, so I'm going to show you. So I'm going to say anything, but you can see this. You might want to get the free PDF here. And I want to show you something. Ida Honorath. All right, so check out Ida, because this is the idea that I'm actually aligned with her, because I'm a right-winger, and she's a far-lefter. She was a chairperson of the Committee to Get Drugs Out of the Meat, founder of Citizens Concerned with Toxic Pesticides, founder of Consumer Health Against Monopolistic Profiteering, a committee against homefront chemical warfare, so she's a gadfly, very far lefty. One of the leading figures in the Los Angeles anti-fluoridation victory, LA anti-fluoridation victory, is credited with saving thousands of lives in Los Angeles County during her about to expose Ford's swine flu fiasco. Check this out. She was right here. Ida Honorath, a feisty lady, consumer protectionist, tough enough, in my view, to loom as a female Ralph Nader, credited by the LA Times and other publications with breaking some of the biggest horror stories of our time. So she wrote this right here, which again I can't say when. In 1977. 1977. A lefty. I'm a righty. How we've come full circle. The government mandates, they never look at the long-term consequence, short-term consequences. They always say this is what's good for you. It's good for you. Do it. I tell you, man, you find that okay? You're freaking wrong, dude. The government should not be telling you what to inject in your body, should not be putting your freaking water supply, should not be mandating any of this crap, which ultimately profits Big Pharma, because that's who does. When it comes to statins, Big Pharma profits, without question. And the doctor doesn't know crap. I guarantee if I said, does statins lower testosterone? She'll say, no, I guarantee, because they don't know. They're too flipping busy to know. I mean, you think she knows? She just listens to what she's told, as all doctors do. That doesn't mean they're evil people. It just means they're ignorant. You are responsible for your health more than anybody else. Get that through your head. Don't say I need a pill. Don't say I need a pill. Look at some of that red geese rice. Again, it's on sale right now at Costco. $4 off. You should get some. Look at it. Read my man Thomas Cowan's book. Read other ways if you're worried about cholesterol, which I'm actually not. I am worried about blood pressure for sure. One of the things you do is you walk. You drink pure water. Get out of the freaking municipality water. That's just all kinds of crap in there, man. All kinds. All right. Let me know your thoughts. We'll see you.